After all, it's
Kind
really.
of TV slash radio.
And put the mic way in front. Just talk right. Do I have to be like really close to it or anything?
Welcome back to La La Land on CRN Digital Talk. I'm Brett Chapin, and that is Nettie Liddell. We're talking to the very talented photographer, Jolie Kinga.
Hey, thanks for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me. You guys are awesome, and thank you for that peg there.
Absolutely.
We know Jolie through the House of Blues. She is Jolie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a originally Swedish photographer.
Yeah.
That came to LA about 4 years ago via New York, and I guess I should say that I do mostly fashion and portraiture, but I've slowly but surely managed to get myself away from working with just beautiful 18-year-old people and started working a lot more with musicians, which is really awesome, and kind of how I ended up at House of Blues.
Okay. And did they get you while you were out in New York or when you were here in Los Angeles?
No, I moved out here. I guess, kind of to get away from my huge network of other artists that I always invited to check out their work with, and I ended up here to work on myself, and I ended up with a roommate that worked at House of Blues. So through that connection, I did some marketing photography for them, and long story short, I ended up at a shoot with you, actually, Nettie.
Yeah. So you kind of were seeking and searching out in Los Angeles and felt like this was a great place to be. As opposed to New York, it was.
I think it's a great place to. I find that a lot of people here are doing their own thing as opposed to, moonlighting as bartenders and doing just a little bit of their own art. A lot of people here are freelancers working exclusively on their stuff, and it's very inspiring, I think, to be here and just to get involved in that group of people. And so I'd gotten a taste of that through friends of mine that were living here, visiting New York. And at the same time, it's not as intensive pace, so I think that it's a great atmosphere too. Nettie's laughing at me, she's like, really? No, but it's a great place to just kind of like be in your own space, on your own time period, in a different way, so it's definitely a great growth area.
Is there anything in particular that you enjoy photographing the most?
Well, like I said, musicians. I love shooting fashion, but on a personal level, I find it much more satisfying to work with people that are 30 and have a really cool story and some really interesting scars that you want to know and photograph. So I've started working a lot with bands and musicians, and I've recently started branching into videography as well.
Wow, yeah. And that's what you're up to right now?
That is what I'm up to right now. Well, you mentioned House of Blues. So my next step now is my show that's coming up that I briefly told you about, and for you guys out there, this Thursday coming up, I have a House of Blues photo exhibit, and it's going to be all about the music, all about the rock and roll vibe that place provides, to kind of get away from that typical art photography white wall space, and bring it back to a little bit more of a grungy, but still, fashion flirting kind of work of mine.
Yeah.
So how does that work? You have photos that are exhibited at the House of Blues, and then you have live musicians that are booked just for that particular show? Or?
Yeah, I can't believe this is happening, but Donna Montel from the Abbey is actually coming. She's usually the DJ there for like every, I think, Friday, Saturday, and thank you, Nettie. She's usually DJing there every Friday and Saturday, and she's coming out for just the show, so she'll be actually DJing and spinning some awesome music at the whole space. And I should say, it's not the House of Blues downstairs that most people are familiar with. It's the upper level foundation room. So
Cool.
if you haven't been there, you need to come out. It's a super sexy environment with I think part of their ceiling is doors from some Indian palace, and it's just stunning visually, which of course is what appealed to me.
Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, Brett, I have music playing there, and a part of the area is going to be dedicated to my photography. And
So just musicians?
That's great.
No, not at all, not at all. I mean, it's the work that I've done that is more artistic than the straight up editorial stuff, but at the same time flirts with that fashion edge. So it's not necessarily what you'd find in I think, typical gallery exhibit, or at least what I think of as a typical.
I believe on the card that you gave me, it was Victorian people, like as chess pieces on a chessboard, and like this beautiful manicured garden that you had made of. I mean, you're visually
I wish.
visually you're just stunning.
Thank you, Nettie. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Where can we find you?
JolieKinga.com, www.joliekinga.com, and of course Facebook is a great place for people to come and poke me and say hi,
Yeah.
or literally just poke me.
And that's spelled www.joliekinga.com.
That's correct. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah. So tell us just a little bit more about your inspiration. Like, where exactly and how exactly did you start? Who and what made you spark the fire?
Well, I think, I was a kid in the 80s, so some of you might remember that there was a lot of Vietnam movies coming out at that time, and, they always had that cool photographer that was dodging bullets and living dangerously, and I think I always wanted to do that. So when I lived in New York...
Didn't we all?
Yeah. I'm not normal, I know that. No, so I think I always wanted to have one of those cameras, and when I lived in New York, I subleased an apartment with this crazy girl of mine that, I don't know how, but she was invited everywhere all the time, and VIP style, and I was studying acting. So people would ask you, what do you do? And you say you're an actor, and of course the next natural question is, great, what have you been in? And if you're just a student, your answer is, oh, I'm just a student, but, or you name drop some student movies, and they're like, great, they pat you on the back, smile, really honestly, and leave, right? So every now and then I would say I'm a photographer, because the apartment that I was sharing belonged to a photographer, and he had some broken camera equipment around. So one day I found an actual camera body, which, appealed to my child from the 80s, and I brought it into this camera store, and I got it fixed for what I now know is more money than the camera was worth. I bought myself a lens and started taking my friends' headshots. So every now and then in these clubs and these fancy places, I would tell people, oh, I'm a photographer. Which, of course, gave me the, oh, really? Tell me more about you response. So, naturally, I liked that a lot more. And one day, I met a photographer that worked for Flaunt. And instead of, oh, really? What do you shoot? I got, great. What equipment do you use? And I got completely stunned, and I knew nothing about photography. I knew about the people, and I think to this day, I think that's what separates me from a lot of photographers. I think I focus a lot on the subject, and you can learn about lighting, you can learn about all that slowly but surely. You can upgrade your equipment, but so I hadn't thought about it. So I enrolled in what I call is my bachelor degree of Barnes & Noble Union Square. I read every photography book, and I patched the problem. But of course, at the end of this, I now had kind of become a photographer. So that's kind of where I come
from. The world of being an artist, the wonderful world of being an artist. You create everything.
Hey, fake it till you make it, they say, right?
Beatlemania. There you go.
For any information on Jolie Kinga, you can go to JolieKinga.com. And you're hanging out for a second, Jolie?
Absolutely. Please, if you'll have me.
All right.
We'll be back with Jolie and the weather.
On La La Land with Brett and Ned on CRN Digital Talk.
Today, there's two